Welcome back to Monday Positivity, Lovely Souls. Today we are going to talk about psychology of people pleasing and why we do it. Have you ever thought, why do we find it so hard to say no? Why do we feel compelled to put others' needs before our own? People pleasing is something many of us struggle with, often without even realizing it. And in this episode, we'll explore the roots of people pleasing, why we do it, and how we can break free from this behavior. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is people pleasing? At its core, people pleasing is the act of prioritizing others' needs, desires, and opinions over your own. It involves constantly seeking approval, avoiding conflict, and saying yes to things you don't really want to do. People pleasers often derive their sense of self worth from how much they can do for others. They believe that by being agreeable and accommodating, they will be liked and accepted. However, this behavior comes at a cost, as people pleasers frequently suppress their own needs and feelings, leading to burnout, resentment, and a weakened sense of self. So, where does people pleasing come from? For many of us, the tendency to please others is rooted in our upbringing and early experiences. Childhood conditioning is number one cause, number one reason. If you were raised in an environment where love, praise, or approval were conditional based on how well you behaved or how much you helped, people pleasing may have become a survival strategy. As a child, you might have learned that the best way to receive love or avoid conflict was by being agreeable and compliant. Another root of people pleasing behavior is fear of rejection. And at its heart, people pleasing is often driven by a deep fear of rejection or abandonment. This fear can stem from early relationships with caregivers, peers, or authority figures. If you were frequently criticized or made to feel like you weren't enough, you may have developed a habit of people pleasing to avoid being rejected or judged. Another root of people pleasing behavior is the need for validation. Many people pleasers have low self esteem and they rely on external validation to feel worthy. When others praise them for their helpfulness, agreeableness, or sacrifices, it temporarily boosts their self worth. However, this creates a cycle where their sense of worth becomes dependent on others' approval. And then the last reason is another major factor behind people pleasing is the desire to avoid conflicts at all costs. For some, conflict triggers anxiety or fear, leading them to say yes to requests they'd rather decline, just to keep the peace. They might fear that standing up for themselves will lead to confrontation or damaged relationships. And if you are someone who's not sure whether you engage in people pleasing, here are some common signs to look out for. Do you struggle to say no, even when you're overwhelmed or disinterested? People pleasers often feel obliged, obligated to say yes to everything, even at the expense of their own well being. If you find yourself frequently seeking reassurance or validation from others, you might be relying too much on external approval to feel good about yourself. People pleasers also go out of their way to avoid disappointing others. They may take on extra work, agree to plans they're not excited about, or suppress their true feelings to avoid letting someone down. If you're constantly worried about how others perceive you, it could be a sign that you are engaging in people pleasing behavior. And this fear of judgment can lead to self doubt and anxiety. People pleasers also neglect their own needs in favor of others, and this might look like sacrificing your time, your energy, or well being to accommodate someone else's desires. And after saying yes too many times, people pleasers often feel resentful. toward those they're helping. This resentment is a result of ignoring their own needs for too long, but they may still feel guilty about expressing their frustration. So now that you know the signs, let's also understand why do we keep falling into the people pleasing trap, even when it leaves us feeling exhausted or resentful. Well, it comes down to a few psychological factors. The number one factor is fear of rejection or abandonment. The human brain is wired for connection, and rejection can feel like a threat to our survival. People pleasers often fear that standing up for themselves or setting boundaries will lead to rejection or abandonment. So they prioritize others' needs to maintain relationships. Another factor is low self esteem. People pleasers often have a fragile sense of self worth. They believe that they're only valuable when they're doing things for others. As a result, they seek approval and validation to feel good about themselves. Another factor is conditioned beliefs. Many of us were raised with beliefs like be nice, be selfless, don't rock the boat, put others first, and these beliefs can become deeply ingrained, making it difficult to prioritize our own needs without feeling guilty or selfish. Another factor is the desire for control. Ironically, people pleasing can also be a way of maintaining control in relationships. Funny, right? By always saying yes, people pleasers believe they can prevent conflict or negative emotions from arising. However, this is an illusion of control that ultimately leads to emotional exhaustion. And the last factor is social and cultural expectations. In many cultures and in many societies, people pleasing is reinforced by societal norms. Women, in particular, are often socialized to be nurturing, self sacrificing, and agreeable. This can create pressure to conform to these roles, even when it's harmful to their own well being. Now that we understand why we people please, let's talk about how to break free from this pattern. Here are a few steps you can take. Number one thing you can do is build your self awareness. The first step to overcoming people pleasing is becoming aware of yourself, aware of when and why you do it. Start paying attention to the situations where you feel compelled to say yes or seek approval. What emotions are driving those actions? What are you afraid of? Ask yourself. And once you do that, start challenging your beliefs. People pleasers, often hold limiting beliefs like if I say no, they won't like me, or I'm only valuable when I'm helping others. So start questioning these beliefs. Are they really true? Are you only valuable if you're helping others? What evidence do you have to support this belief, or what evidence do you have to disprove this belief? And another important aspect is to practice assertiveness. Learning to say no is a crucial skill for overcoming people pleasing. Start small by asserting yourself in low stakes situations. And as you become more comfortable, gradually work your way up to setting boundaries in more important areas of your life. Boundaries, I'm telling you, it's so important. I mean, if you can just practice this one art, if you can just learn to set different kind of boundaries in all areas of your life, I mean, you will do yourself so much good. You will learn not to people please. You will learn to assert yourself effectively and so much more. And also remember that rejection is not a reflection of your worth. So if you say no to someone and they reject you or they stop liking you, it doesn't have anything to do with your self-worth. And that's where reframing comes. You have to reframe rejection. When someone reacts negatively to your boundaries, it says more about them than it does about you. You need to practice viewing rejection as a sign that you're standing up for yourself and prioritizing your well being. And you need to reframe those scenarios. Instead of saying that if I say no, the person will stop liking me. You have to tell yourself that I have the right to put my needs first. And if someone is not okay with that, it's their problem, not yours. And finally, you need to have a support system. Breaking the people pleasing habit can be difficult, especially if it's been a long standing pattern. So you need to surround yourself with friends, family who can, support you as you practice asserting your needs and setting boundaries. And if you can't find anyone, you can always find, support groups online, or you can always have a therapist, somebody who can help you set the right kind of boundaries and assert yourself and not people please. And if you're someone who has been people pleasing for long, you have to understand that it's a deeply ingrained behavior that often stems from low self esteem and fear of abandonment and social conditioning. But by building self awareness, challenging those negative, limited beliefs, and practicing assertiveness, you can break free from the cycle of people pleasing and start living more authentically. Because you are worthy of love and respect even when you say no. You are worthy of love and respect even when you are being yourself, even when you are not people pleasing, right? So, thank you for listening to this episode. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more discussions on personal growth and mental health. Until next time, take care of yourself and embrace the power of setting boundaries.